I've honestly grown fond of raiding plants. For some reason, I find myself enjoying it a lot, which is why I suddenly woke up this morning and thought to myself, what plants should I raid today? I came to the realization that I've never raided sun producer plants, even though I love sun producer plants. I mean, I'm literally a sunflower. I can't produce sun, unfortunately, but it really shows that I love them. Sun is what I believe is the most important factor in Plants vs. Zombies 1 and 2. Without it, it'd be a little harder to beat the game. Except for YouTubers that do the no sun challenges, I could never. Now that's impressive. PVZ 2 has a pretty packed list of sun producing plants, whether instant or staying on the lawn. A lot of them are great, productive, undeniably spectacular, while some others not so much. So now let's rank the sun producers from worst to best. Of course, the worst one in this list has to be Sundew Tangler. I talked about Sundew a lot already in my last video, though I wholeheartedly believe that this one is the worst plant out of all the ones in this list. It's a detriment to use. It accidentally acts as a help for the zombies to get past you, since it literally makes the zombies untargetable when the Sundew Tangler captures them, which I think is super silly. She's also horrible when it comes to sun production. Her sun rate is 8 seconds for barely any sun. I don't really see why anyone would willingly use this plant for that. In terms of attack too, it's bad. Her attack is 26 damage with a cooldown of 8 seconds. So as you can see, even statistics wise, she's not a very good plant. Her plant food effect causes her to entangle multiple zombies, temporarily trapping them like usual and producing sun. It's not horrible plant food wise, but again, just mediocre. This means both attack and sun production wise, she's not efficient. In that conclusion, she is the lowest of the low out of all these sun producing plants. Okay, people might give me problems for ranking Gold Leaf lower than Sunbeam. Hear me out, okay? I genuinely believe Gold Leaf is kind of bad, and I have my reasons. Though I do believe the idea of a tile turnip related plant but for sun is interesting, this plant is not very well used in any worlds but Lost City and Modern Day. In these two worlds, gold tiles occur naturally, so it gives more of a reason to use it. Though since only 2 out of 11 worlds have this, the necessity of Gold Leaf is incredibly restricted now. I think the biggest problem though is that the recharge time is so long. It's 50 seconds, aka pretty much a minute. It used to be 30 seconds, but after update 9.9.1, it's now 50 seconds. I don't know why. I think if it was kept in 30 seconds, I would find it a little more convenient to use, honestly. The fact that it is 50 seconds only for it to turn a planet into a level 1 sunflower isn't worth it. It's just a very bad instant sun production plant. In the context of Lost City, okay, maybe not as bad, but it just shows how it's a little too situational. Therefore, I'm gonna have to put it this low. In a way, I think Sunbeam and Gold Leaf are technically tied in a low tier. Sunbeam just has a little bit more positives than Gold Leaf in my opinion. I'll start with those positives. I believe when it comes to high health zombies like fossil heads, brick heads, knights, and bucket heads, it's pretty useful. His plant food is pretty good too. The explosion of sun once eaten can be fairly useful in Dark Ages. He's good for a few levels in that world, but here's the thing, once you're out of that world, I don't think it's a plant you would really be using. There's just so many other options, and honestly, it's just a worse solar tomato. And here's the biggest problem as well, solar sage is also an upgraded version of it. Cause 0 sun, ends up just killing the zombie when it gets close to it, and dropping so much more sun, and it doesn't even have to be high health. Therefore, Sunbeam just looks very inferior compared to these two plants mentioned that have a very similar premise. If you really want to use Sunbeam, boost his seed packet from growing him in the Zen garden. Then I would say he has potential. Apart from that, I'm gonna have to put him here. Sorry Sunbeam. You're cute though. Solar tomato. Like I said, it's sort of just an upgrade of Sunbeam. Rather than having to eat it, Solar Tomato works like a cherry bomb. It's a premium instant use plant that stuns zombies in a 3x3 area for 8 seconds when planted, causing each stunned zombie to drop 50 sun. Now, the fact that it stuns zombies for 8 seconds is cool. In a way that makes it a better Stalia. Fun fact, for some reason, the Solar Tomato has a toughness stat. Why would it need one? I have no idea. I just thought it was a little funny. Anyways, what's the problem with Solar Tomato? The fact that it's so situational. In order to use it correctly, you need it in levels where there are a lot of zombies. Using it on a low number of zombies tend to be less profitable and practically useless, as Solar Tomato costs 100 sun. I feel like if it costed less, like 50 sun, I could see using it much more. It could work in high crowds, but are very bad in low. Therefore, it's very average, in my opinion, especially compared to the upcoming plants with similar premises that are way more useful. The default Sunflower. The OG. I would say this is the best place to put it, honestly. It's one of your only sun producer plants at the beginning of the game unless you decide to buy Gold Bloom. And even then, you do need a sun producer to stay on your lawn. Naturally, I feel like it'd be a little unusual to put the default Sunflower too high. Trust me when I say a lot of the other sun producer plants afterwards are what I believe are great and what makes them better than Sunflower. I don't want to disrespect my goat though. She's still the best sun producer plant in the first game. She produces a sun drop every 24 seconds, providing 50 sun, of course. Can't get any better or worse than that. It's okay. Sunflower is just okay. And I like that. I love the Sunflower, if it's not obvious. Like I mentioned, what makes it so useful in the first place is that it's fundamental in the beginning of the game. Without it, you struggle so much more. I love this plant, just can't find myself ranking it so high. The Toadstool is pretty different from these other plants, because much like the Sundew Tangler, it's more than just a plant that produces sun. It's pretty much just Chomper. If I had a nickel for every time PopCap created a plant that overshadows Chomper, I'd have 2 nickels. Poor Chomper, he deserves better. Well, fun fact, nowadays Chomper is actually better than Toadstool. Chomper costs 150 sun, Toadstool costs 200, so Chomper is less sun. Toadstool takes 30 seconds to chew, Chomper takes only 17 seconds. I'm just saying. So anyway, after Toadstool digests for these 30 seconds, it produces 50 sun, which is what makes it a sun producer plant. Honestly, don't think you should ever depend on Toadstool to produce sun, but I still think this is a nice touch. What I believe makes Toadstool a little better than Chomper though is the fact that it can extend its tongue forward 2.5 tiles to kill or damage enemies, while Chomper can only eat zombies that are in front of him. I think what makes Toadstool a little problematic, and this can apply to Chomper as well, is that Toadstool is a little bit slow for a game like Plants vs Zombies 2. In PVZ 2, zombies are sent in large waves, where it becomes almost overwhelming sometimes. So depending on Toadstool as a main attacker or sun producer plant just wouldn't work at all. As a support though, I suppose it can work. She's not bad, just not a plant you can really depend on in the lawn as a main plant. Twin Sunflower was a plant I used very frequently from ancient Egypt to around Dark Ages. Apart from Sunflower, it was the only plant I would be able to use, and I thought it was extremely beneficial. Of course, after unlocking Sun-shroom, I didn't really see the point of Twin Sunflower anymore, honestly. But she's efficient. Costing 125 sun in the game, they produce 100 sun every 32 to 36 seconds. In my opinion, its recharge time is kind of odd. A 10-second recharge time isn't exactly worth it, at least in my opinion. Sunflowers in general should have bare minimum of 5-second recharge, just like Sun-shroom, Primal Sunflower, or Sunflower herself. Personally, I always believed upgrades should have stayed in PVZ too. If I were to make a PVZ game, slot upgrades would have still been a thing, as I believe they were more interesting than Twin Sunflower, Winterbelly, or Spike Rock being its own separate thing. In summary, Twin Sunflower is good for longer rounds if you can depend on beginning Gold Blooms or Solar Sage for early rounds. Way more efficient than normal Sunflower, personally, depends on how long the level is. Moonflower is great. Personally, she's the third best stay-in-lawn sun producer plant if we ignore Shinevine. I'll get to that later. So I'll start with the little negatives that she has. The plant food sucks, and I think everyone can agree on that. She gives an amount of sun equivalent to her normal sun drop, generating a personal shield similar to Infinite's force field that can absorb around 1000 damage. So if it's not obvious, a very bad plant food effect. But anyway, a sun producer plant that does 2 things at once I think is great. Yes, Toadstool technically does this, but the sun producing part of it sucks. Moonflower, on the other hand, is incredibly useful for more than one reason. Much like Twin Sunflower, she produces 25 sun every 32 to 36 seconds, plus another 25 when there's a shadow plant adjacent to her. She can do maximum 100 sun for 3 adjacent shadow plants. Speaking of shadow plants, the concept of shadow plants, I believe, is underrated. It's a different and unique concept, and I love concepts that feel new and not just a repeat of something else. Granted, I believe that shadow plants don't really fit in modern day at all, but that doesn't make Moonflower worse than what she already is. Seeing as Moonflower, apart from Gloomvine and Nocturne, is the only plant that powers shadow plants, it makes her so much more useful than she already is. In conclusion, I love Moonflower and believe she's a unique concept along other shadow plants no matter how useless it could be sometimes. She's a good plant. I like her a lot. Gold Bloom. It's pretty in games like Reflourish, but obviously this is about vanilla plant for zombies too. And I have to say, Gold Bloom is great. When planted, it instantly produces 3 normal sun and 3 large sun, making 375 sun in total. I think a lot of people use the Gold Bloom and Imitator combo for obvious reasons. Using it twice in the beginning of your game gives you a combined 750 sun. 750 sun in the start of your game, in what's usually a 3 to 5 minute level, is a great starter. I know the recharge time for Gold Bloom is long. 75-second recharge time means you could only really use Gold Bloom twice in a level, but I believe Gold Bloom isn't meant to be a long-term lawn plant. Using her mostly for that starter up in the beginning of a level is what I believe makes her great, since she's automatically recharged when the level starts. Especially if you use her in Dark Ages, where you don't have as much sun as other worlds. I will say, Gold Bloom should never be the only sun-producing plant in your inventory. I think what makes Gold Bloom so good is that she's a great quote-unquote co-worker, you could say, for mainstay in lawn sun-producing plants. Amazing instant plant, not the number 1, but definitely up in the top 3. Solar Sage is absolutely broken. When zombies get too close to Solar Sage, it will transform any zombie near her tower into an enlightened zombie and then despawn. So pretty much, it's a free potato mine with a 20-second recharge. On top of that, Solar Sage can produce at least 450 sun per minute at level 1. The fact that she's a free instant plant that can kill mostly any zombie makes it incredibly useful. For example, think about the most annoying zombies. Newspaper zombie, octo zombie, or high health zombies like breakhead zombie. You can just make them disappear. I don't think you should use this plant in levels like Far Future though, since it's unable to turn mecha zombies like Robocone, Shield, or Mecha Football Zombie into enlightened zombies. It's a completely broken plant. Gold Bloom was pretty broken too, but this plant is just a definition of broken. So naturally, this is the second most efficient instant sun producer plant. And I think many can agree with how broken it is. And the most satisfying part is that when it's a group of zombies, Solar Sage can practically kill like 10 enemies in 5 seconds. What a breeze. The fact that this caused 0 sun, and the fact that you could use Imitator to combo it, what an insane plant. Enlighten-mint, another completely broken plant, and considered the number 1 instant sun plant. Though honestly, I feel like Enlighten-mint isn't technically better than Solar Sage, they're both tied. I just think Enlighten-mint technically is more efficient long-term in the game with the fact that it can benefit any sun-producing plant, including Solar Sage. I always thought power mints were cool. Again, it's another unique concept along the shadow plants. I think power mints are hated among the community. At least that's what some of my friends say, and I suppose I can see why they are hated, though personally it's distinctive and I love that. So when planted, Enlighten-mint will produce 50 sun, then giving anyone from the Enlighten-mint family a temporary boost, increasing their sun production rates and amounts of sun produced for 5 seconds. This may seem like a little, but I will explain why this little temporary boost is fantastic. Here are all the boosts listed. You might want to sit down for this. Primal Sunflower sun production rate will be increased, producing an additional 75 sun. Solar Tomato will do 200 damage to all zombies in its radius. Her stun duration will be increased by 12 seconds, and she will produce 100 sun per stunned zombie instead of 50. Shine Vine's sun production rate will be increased. Its sun production amplifier is increased by 75 sun, and its sun production is increased to 125 sun. Its stun duration is increased by 4.25 seconds. Solar Sage's Enlightened Zombie's sun time will be reduced to 3 seconds. Her Enlightened Zombie's chance to infect other zombies is increased to 50%. Her sun production when planted is increased to 100 sun, and when triggered is increased to 150 sun. Zombie sun is increased to 100. Sunbeam will convert an additional 100 damage done to a zombie to sun. The max sun a zombie can produce is increased by 400. Sunflower's sun production rate will be increased, producing an additional 25 sun. Toadstool's shoot time will reduce to 3 seconds, and she will produce an additional 100 sun per eaten zombie. Twin Sunflower will produce an additional 50 sun, and Sundew Tangler will deal additional damage with its normal attacks. Its sun rate is reduced to 6 seconds too. I'm keeping Sun-shroom for the last for one reason only. What Enlighten-mint does to Sun-shroom is what I believe makes the plant incredibly functional and practical. When Enlighten-mint is planted, Sun-shroom will instantly grow to its max size, producing 110 sun once fully grown. The fact that it can do this is insane. With the fact that Sun-shroom, as I'll explain later, is a sun-producing plant you should most definitely use. Very long yap session compared to the other plants, but I love this plant. It's great. Sun-shroom is probably my favorite sun producer plant when it comes to design. He's so cute, but unfortunately, I'm not ranking these plants based on how adorable they are. But as a sun producing plant, This is an amazing sun producer. Comparing PVZ2 Sun-shroom to PVZ1 Sun-shroom, it's obvious that Sun-shroom had a tremendous buff compared to the first game. Costing half as much as a sunflower, when Sun-shroom is first planted, as many of you guys know, it only produces 25 sun. After only 18 seconds, he grows large and produces 50 sun. After 72 seconds, Sun-shroom will grow to a full size and produce 75 sun every 32 to 36 seconds. You wouldn't even need to wait for the growth time if you use plant food on a Sun-shroom, since it will grow automatically that produce 225 sun. And you can depend on Power Lily for that, or growing her in the Zen Garden. Or, like I mentioned before, Enlighten-mint immediately grows Sun-shroom. Not the #1 sun producing plant, it's a little obvious who it will be, but still in the top 3. Its lower cost compared to Sunflower or faster recharge rate compared to the Twin Sunflower just makes it 10 times better. It's just great for building up sun production. Shine Vine is the first and only vine plant in this tier list, which I think is surprising. I love vine plants, so I'm a little disappointed that there's not really that many of them in the game. This is the second best stay-at-long sun producing plant, technically. In my opinion, what makes this plant amazing is the fact that it works as a fantastic support plant. Much like Enlighten-mint, Shine Vine amplifies the sun production of other sun producer plants, except Moonflower unfortunately. On top of that, it creates sun on its own, and uses a sun stun burst as a last second defense when it's attacked. Stat-wise, Shine Vine produces 50 sun every 32 to 36 seconds, much like Sunflower and Twin Sunflower. When it's on top of other plants, on top of its own sun production, it increases its house plant's production by 25 sun per cycle. In terms of its last second defense, when approached by a zombie, Shine Vine will perform a stunning attack every 2 seconds, stunning them in a similar manner to Solar Tomato, causing them to drop a tiny 5 sun. This is pretty much a way better version of Gold Leaf, by a landslide. By itself, it's just a normal sunflower, so on its own it's not very good. But when it's on top of other plants, I think it's great. One little extra detail as well is that when it's placed on magnifying grass, Shine Vine will stop producing sun on its own, and every 32 to 36 seconds, it causes magnifying grass to shoot an attack rather than having to tap on it to shoot its light. A great sun producing support plant, and one of the reasons why I love vine plants so much. Time for the best sun producer in the game. Drumroll please. Primal Sunflower. Honestly, I think the PVZ community very much agrees about this. Primal Sunflower is a wonderful sun producing plant, and I always find myself using this alongside Goldbloom or Solar Sage as a support. She produces 75 sun instead of 50, only costing 25 sun more than her modern counterpart. But that doesn't really matter with the 50 sun meta in the game. It doesn't need to grow, it has a great recharge time, and a production of 75 sun is incredibly efficient for your lawn. It's literally just a full-grown Sun-shroom, therefore having full production capability, being the #1 reason why this should be your go-to for more harder levels in Modern Day or Big Wave Beach. This plant deserves to be in the #1 place, and I'm definitely going to be using it in the future. Well, as much as you can get with the extra content this game has. Very limited extra content, but I'll get to that in another video. So, these are the plants if I were to rank them in a tier list. Of course, like I said in the beginning, this is all opinion based. I don't expect everyone to agree with all these plants. And if you disagree with some of my opinions, I would love to see your guys' thoughts on why I may be wrong on something, and I'll gladly address them in another video. I am admittedly looking for more video ideas, so I'd love to hear what you guys would want me to talk about in the future in the comments. Anyway, that's all I have for now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!